What about someone that abuses their wife or their husband, either way, or
extreme disconnection, isn't it?
Or is practicing infidelity?
Yes.
And this person continually reaches for the thought that feels better, but it doesn't change. How long do they continue reaching before finally they say, okay, that's enough of that, and they just move on?
First, we would say that anyone who is abusing or is abusive is dramatically disconnected. And your participation in their abuse, in other words, as you take it, as you feel pain from it, as you cower to it, all of that is just part of the same vibration. And it's a natural thing that when you are abused, that you feel abused. In other words, it would be difficult not to. But if you had the power to really love beyond the abuse, and if you found more vibrational harmony with the love than with the abuse, it would turn around in your experience. The reason it usually doesn't is because you felt victimized and you felt abused before you even came into the relationship with that person. It's part of the basis of the relationship. Very often, a young girl who feels inadequate, she's sort of been trained that way, and feels insufficient, she's sort of been trained that way, will gravitate into an abusive relationship. She might go to work where she is taught to appreciate herself, and it is possible for her vibration to change and for her to achieve harmony with well-being enough that she is able to shift what is taking place in the relationship. That does happen. Sometimes the question is put to us much as you put it here, where someone will say, well, shouldn't I just go someplace else? Shouldn't I get out of this abusive relationship? And we say, by all means, we don't think anyone should stay in a place where they are being abused. But at the same time, if she goes someplace else, there's a very strong probability that she will justify her movement by continuing to explain how awful that was. And in doing so, she keeps that vibration alive within her so that she continues to be abused everywhere she goes. When we come back from segment of refreshment, we will address the subject of how can I stand in the middle of a vibration that is so different from what I want and find a way to find another vibration that feels better and make it dominant against what seems like all odds against that. We want to talk about how you can control your vibration no matter what. Good time for a segment of refreshment. We are complete. We're talking about how to stand in the middle of something unwanted and find the feeling place of something else. It is not possible to focus upon one thing and feel another, because whatever you are focused upon is what is generating your vibration and therefore is what is affecting your feeling. So everything is about your choice of focus. Sometimes when Jerry and Esther will go to a new environment, a new city, when they are there at first, they do not enjoy the fragrances of the area. It's as if they have not acclimated. But then, as they're taking the walk through the forest, at first they aren't smelling anything, they aren't seeing any little animals. It's just them walking through what looks like a beautiful place, but they are not in the place yet. Their bodies are there, but they are not vibrationally attuned to it. And then as they walk longer and they observe more and they relax into, they forget about how much they have to do, and they forget about where they have been, and they forget about where the car is parked, and they forget about the journey that they will take once they leave this place, and they focus on the walk. They focus on breathing deeply, and they focus upon their feet on the trail, and they focus in this place. Then they begin to smell the vegetation. Then they begin to smell the water. And then the little critters who live in the woods begin to show themselves to them. Then all manner of wildlife doesn't find them foreign either. It's about acclimating. It's about choosing the vibration and then deliberately acclimating. Do you ever find yourself tense for whatever reason? And then you put on some music that you adore. And at first, it doesn't change your mood or attitude much. But as you play it longer and focus more, or better still, if you join in, if you move to it or dance to it or sing to it as you join it, then you begin to feel the rhythm of the music. You begin to feel the vibration of upliftment, you see. So what we're really talking about is whatever the vibration that you have going is a vibration you have going, and it has a point of attraction of its own. And while you can deliberately choose something else, when you first deliberately choose something else, it will not be the dominant vibration, not at first. The other usually will. So you have to make a deliberate intent that you're choosing something else, and you have to find your own ways to get into the rhythm of the new vibration. Usually just staying with it longer does it. Finding more ways to focus within the thought. If you really want to do it in a fast way, meditation is the best way we know, because if you stop and deliberately quiet your mind, as you quiet your mind, there is no thought. And as there is no thought, there is no resistance. And as there is no resistance, then you can easily choose another thought and it becomes dominant. So quieting your mind can be a very lovely bridge into a better feeling thought. Appreciation is the best tool on the run. In other words, when you are moving, you can't usually, while you are driving in traffic, stop and meditate. We don't recommend it. But you could get on a rampage of appreciation and shift your vibration rather easily too. Now let's talk about some specifics, and we'll show you what we would do.
In the relationship?
What was on your mind?
Well, my husband has been unfaithful to me a couple of times. That's what I was referring to.
How does that thought feel?
It feels very bad.
Can he take it back?
No.
So you have a choice of choosing the way you feel. Now, we're just going to throw some things out to you.
There's a key to that that I think I need to add to that, is the last time I really started reaching for the thought that felt better and really let it go, and then it came up again. So I don't understand my part in that, why it came up again, because I was doing really well. I was feeling better.
Do you think you would be feeling better now if you did not know?
Yes, but I wouldn't prefer not to know.
This is a really important question here, because what you're saying to us is you would rather know the truth than feel better. And almost everybody would agree with you. I'd rather know the truth and feel rotten than not know the truth and feel better. And this is the orientation that we're wanting to bring you around to. We're wanting you to want to feel better. In fact, we would like you to be able to know the truth and feel better too. In other words, we would like you to feel better. We're just going to throw some things out, sort of shake up the whole idea of sexuality in your time-space reality. We're just going to play the game of which thought feels better. Which thought feels better? My husband was unfaithful to me. Or my husband is unfaithful to me.
My husband was unfaithful to me.
Which thought feels better? My husband was unfaithful to me. Or my husband is a thriving sexual being at the height of his sexuality.
He's a thriving sexual being at the height of his sexuality.
Which thought feels better? My husband is a thriving sexual being at the height of his sexuality. Or the sexuality in my husband has withered and he has no interest in it whatsoever.
The first one. He's a thriving being at the heart of his
Thriving sexual being. Which feels better? We are innately sexual beings whose desires are very powerful, or we have the ability to limit ourselves in many ways. There's no right or wrong here, just which feels better to you.
We are innate sexual beings.
Because what we're getting at here is that as physical humans, you really do interesting things to one another. We've been talking about very pointedly here today how it is very common to say, this thought makes me feel good and this thought makes me feel bad. Therefore, the people who are important to me must do this so that I can feel good. Because what you're actually saying to others is, it is your responsibility to deny your natural instincts and to do what is biologically, don't get upset with us, unnatural, in order to perform a behavior that makes it easier for me to feel good. It's a tricky thing, isn't it? Because what we're doing, we're taking this issue, and we know it's a sensitive one, and we're laying it right over this thing that you all keep doing to each other, which is to say, my happiness depends upon your behavior, and it's up to you to control yourself in these ways. Now we know that the next thing that most would say to us, at least most women, he made a promise to me that he did not keep. You would be ever so much kinder to one another if you would not make each other promise to behave in certain ways so that you can be joyful. Because it is not possible to behave in all ways that make others joyful. Now, we're not saying to you that what your husband did was right, but we would not say to him that what he did was wrong either. What we would say is, it was something that happened that you now have the opportunity to choose the way you feel about it, you see. Some would say, well, Abraham, there are big things and little things, and if my husband betrays me in this big way, isn't that more important than if he betrays me in some little way? And we say, we would never put anyone in a position where they could betray you, because by betraying you, that says you're asking them to live up to standards that are necessary before you can feel good. And you will discover the most extraordinary of relationships when you say to everyone that you love, be as you be, and I will choose to feel as I choose to feel. It is a rather usual thing when we compare the male side and female side of your species. Very often, the dominant thing that the female desires is security, which means she wants him to make promises that make her feel secure and keep them. The dominant thing that all of you feel, but it is especially powerful within the male, is he wants freedom. All of you want all of those things, but it is more exaggerated that the female wants security and the male wants freedom. So the more she wants security, the less free he feels. And the more free he feels, the more insecure she feels. So it's a sort of thing where it's a struggle that has been going on for a very, 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 very long time. And it's all about, I need you to be different so that I can feel good, and I need you to be different so that I can feel good. And what we would like you to do is to discover the joy in feeling good anyway. We're not saying necessarily that your husband deserves forgiveness by the standards of the promises that you've made to each other, but you certainly deserve to forgive him. Because not forgiving him holds you in resistance to well-being, you see. And we want so much for you to come to the place where you don't need him to perform or behave in a certain way for you to feel good. We want you to be able to look at his aspects and pick the ones that make your heart sing and leave the ones that don't make your heart sing aside. And it is our expectation that before you know it, it is possible for two of you to come together and to be enough for one another. In other words, we're not saying that everybody needs a whole lot of others in order to make their lives full. But we do know that the more you try to restrain someone, the more they feel restrained. And the more they feel restrained, the more they break out of the traces in ways that seem unreasonable even to them. And we think that most in your husband's situation would say, if asked about it, it was not my plan to do that. In other words, that was a promise I planned to keep. It's irrational even to him that it happened in the way that it did. But it was a culmination that occurred from the dynamics of the vibration. Just like world events culminate, so do individual family events culminate. And everybody's part of the culmination.